Next panel member is Tim Robertson from Nuka Research. He's the general manager there in Seldovia, Alaska.
Do you know the order?
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here today. It's been a great conference to be at. It's been a while since I've been asked to speak as an unintended participant in an oil spill. In 1989, I was trying to wrap up a career as a drilling fluids engineer, worked on the North Slope and in Cook Inlet, Alaska, and had recently opened a wilderness lodge and ecotourism business in Seldovia, Alaska. So I thought I'd start out today with a little interview that was done with me then, and then kind of reflect back on what has happened in my life since then and with my community since then. Hopefully the sound works.
My name's Tim Robertson. I live in Seldovia and I own a business, Harmony Point Wilderness Lodge near Seldovia. I was involved in the oil spill starting about the 10th of April and worked as a director from the crew from Seldovia with regards to our response to the oil spill, both here when we were building Boom and on the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula when the fishing fleet went down and started collecting oil and water from the beaches down there. I worked until about the first week of June and then went back to my business. I've seen the oil in Seldovia Bay and on the beaches near Seldovia Bay. I've seen beaches completely inundated with oil that are less than 12 miles from here on the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula. I've seen it affect our city both socially and economically. It's probably the money that's come into the city's been the biggest boom that the city has had, and at least since king crab was here 10 or 12 years ago. It's affected our city socially from the standpoint of the effects of the money and also from the effects of the politics. During the oil spill, because of matters related to the oil spill, we've lost 2/3 of our city council, and the city manager resigned over issues that were partly related to the oil spill. So it has had a very major impact on the city. There would be those that would argue that some of it's been positive, but for the most part, I'd say it's all been negative. Personally, the loss of being able to work in my business and the uncertainty as to whether we were actually going to be inundated with oil here had a major effect on the number of people that came to my business this summer. It's a tourism business, a wilderness lodge, and people don't want to come to a wilderness lodge experience in the middle of a place that's been oiled or is being affected by a lot of people working on oil, and that's exactly what happened here this summer. A couple of other ways that I've seen impacts on this community is the mental health of the community. During the days when we thought we were going to get a heavy inundation of oil here, we were working as a group from 5 in the morning until midnight every night. Lots of big decisions to make, lots of pressure from Exxon and FECO to do certain things, certain ways, and a lot of people just physically totally burned out. I think it's really important to point out that Exxon and FECO rotate their personnel. They give them 10 days on and 10 days off, and that's for their mental health. But we live here and have been fighting for our, what we perceive to be our own backyard. And none of us have had any rest at all. And I've seen people have breakdowns. I've seen marriages break up. I've seen friendships break up. On the other hand, I've seen new friendships forged also. You would have to check with our police chief, but I know that domestic violence has tripled since the oil spill started. I think there's a lot more problems with alcohol since the oil spill started within our community. All of these are cumulative negative impacts onto our community and the people of the community. So. Right now there is a lot of money in town. The beach cleanup crews, all of the crews from Seldovia were laid off yesterday. So as the 16th of August, there's no more income coming into this community from the oil spill response effort. What is there left? There's the salmon fisheries are over for the season. They either didn't occur or they occurred in very limited times and areas. There's no major construction projects going on this year. The cannery has shut down and left town. We basically have no economic base after the tourism season ends in 2 weeks for this community at all. A lot of people made a lot of money, and hopefully they'll save it and use it wisely to get through the winter. But I see over the coming winter and even beyond that over coming years, because of the impact of the oil spill, a very major negative impact to the city. And our community is going to be putting together a proposal to fund a position within city government to deal with oil spill related matters, not only matters of impact and recovery from this oil spill, but matters of response for future oil spill. I think the way that this community has represented itself and responded to the threat of the Exxon Valdez oil spill is exemplary, and I think that in the future we can lead the charge on any future oil spills. What we're looking at is a volunteer fire department type of system with a funded position, boom and equipment, contracts already in place with skippers, training exercises and surprise drills throughout the year to keep ourselves trained and ready to respond to oil spills. And hopefully the next one won't catch us by surprise. Hopefully the next one will never occur.
So I thought yesterday when I heard Bethany's excellent presentation that she'd basically given my talk today, and I realized a little bit last night on reflection that she's looking at it with a 4-year lens, and I'm looking at it with a 25-year lens. Like Bethany, you know, the Exxon Valdez oil spill turned into a new career for me. It increased job opportunities. I would think that those of you that know me well would have seen some psychosocial stress during especially the first 5 years after the oil spill in my life. But it's worked out pretty good for me. There are others in my community, not so much. We had a young man that was put into a confined space without any PPE and a pressure washer, and he coated his lungs with crude oil, and 3 years later he passed away. As has already been said, there are a number of people in my community that had Prince William Sound hearing permits, and as Charles said last night, the whole process of the litigation was very, very tough on individual people. But communities are resilient. We go through earthquakes, we go through hurricanes, we pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, and we keep going. And my community of Seldovia is doing quite well. We've transitioned, probably not because of the oil spill, but of natural things, from a fishing-based economy to a tourism-based economy. The babies that were there during the oil spill have all grown up, and they've had babies. And one of the things that we've tried to do, those of us that went through the spill, is to stay in touch with the community. And so on the 5th anniversary and the 10th anniversary and so on and so forth, there would be a group of us that would go up to the school and talk to the school kids. And that was always interesting, and it's interesting to reflect back on those discussions as the years went by. On the 20th anniversary, we had a really good discussion with one of the high school classes, and we talked about the consequences of the oil spill and our ability to recover from it. And the thing I remember about that conversation is we kind of drifted off into climate change and how oil spills were temporal things, and we had the ability to recover from them. But some of these other changes are more long-term, long-lasting. And I think it changed everyone's perspective a little bit about how bad the oil spill was. So this March, my buddies and I went up and introduced ourselves to the new school principal and said that, you know, we'd be willing to come and talk to the kids about the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And she said that she didn't really see that as relevant. And basically didn't have time within their curriculum for us to talk to the school kids that year, and that was a big disappointment to me. I wanted to talk a little bit about the oil spill response organization that I mentioned there. It's the Philadelphia Oil Spill Team, the SOS team. It's still alive and well, still going. Recently, they've worked with our company to put together training films. There's been a lot of concern from communities in the Arctic about being able to protect themselves and respond to oil spills. Our team is still going, and we've never really responded to an oil spill that wasn't from within our community, but we've at least provided that service over that period of time. Solutions to community impacts from a lay person, you know, I think that you have to give the community a voice before, during, and after an oil spill. I think of terms of risk makers and risk takers, and I think the risk makers have got to involve the risk takers at every step of the way. If you show up after an accident has occurred, you're going to have zero credibility. If you show up before, you've got a chance anyway. I think you need to recognize community values and strengths. I think we talked to peer-to-peer listeners. I think impacted communities being peer to other impacted communities or other communities that think they might be impacted is something that often gets overlooked. We had a lot of interaction with Cordova and Seward and other communities during the Exxon Valdez. We reached out to communities on Alaska during the Selendang. We're looking at communities in the Arctic now. And as a previous speaker mentioned, the Joe Banta, the Prince William Sound RCAC, went down and worked with communities on the Gulf during the Gulf. And I think at least the people that live and work along the coast that I know, and the ones that in the Gulf, you know, they want control over their own fate. That's really all they want. They want to be able to put their hands on something and get something done. And when that ability is taken away from you, that I think is when you get the stress that you see. Thank you.